tension you interpret as control may be the body operating in permanent defense. A jaw that won't let go, a contracted solar plexus, breath held in the chest. These signs reveal a nervous system that distrusts its own organism. While the mind tries to steer every movement, the internal state blocks exactly what you need to truly create. You are going to discover a 90-second sequence that dissolves this pattern through the body, not through willpower. It crosses a precise neurophysiological threshold separating command from presence. When that boundary is crossed, the organism regains its own authority and the creative mode emerges without being forced. Leaving this video before that point means continuing to push life through constant effort, without realizing that there is a way to sustain everything through the inner axis, not through tension. What is happening in your body is an autonomic defense regime, a state in which the organism replaces trust with continuous vigilance. The mind takes over direction because the nervous system interprets that relaxing would be vulnerable. The body begins to operate as if it were under constant threat, even when nothing actually threatens. Ancient Hermetic traditions understood the temple as a structure that only manifests when inhabited, not when commanded. Alchemy taught that transmutation happens through inner alignment, never through the imposition of will upon resistant matter. What they called inhabiting the sacred was allowing the organism to lead instead of being audited by a panicked mind. When neuroception detects threat, even subtle, even imagined, the body prioritizes management over generation. The jaw locks to contain expression. The diaphragm rises to protect vital organs. The solar plexus hardens as visceral armor. The organism enters a survival regime disguised as productivity, and creation becomes fabrication because there is no internal space available to generate. Polyvagal theory revealed that creative states require ventral activation, a specific kind of internal safety that allows exploration, connection, and expression. Under sympathetic vigilance, you act, execute, produce, but you don't truly create. Because creation is not born from force. It is born from the body's trust that it can generate without being interrupted by false internal alarms. That explains why you can function but not flow, produce but not sustain, start but not continue without additional effort. The tension that seems like competence is the organism operating as if it were under constant attack. And there is someone who lived this exact dissociation between doing and creating, until discovering how to cross back into the body as authority. That person's story will illuminate the path you are about to walk. Emma had worked as a hairdresser for 26 years. At 49, she maintained a loyal clientele in a neighborhood salon, spoke easily, and seemed balanced to those who knew her from the outside. But behind the organized routine, she carried an exhaustion no rest could solve. Her body lived in constant readiness, as if relaxing were dangerous. Emma already knew something was wrong, but she couldn't name exactly where. Her jaw never truly let go. Even sleeping, she woke up with tooth pain, a sign that she ground her teeth all night without noticing. Her solar plexus felt like a hardened plate right below the ribs, blocking any breath that tried to descend. She produced all day, cutting, talking, organizing, deciding, but none of it came from flow. It came from pushing. Every movement needed prior authorization from the mind, as if the body couldn't trust itself to sustain anything on its own. Emma tried cognitive therapy, which helped her understand patterns, but did not change what was happening in her body. She experimented with deep breathing techniques that, instead of relaxing, increased anxiety because the diaphragm simply would not yield. She tried reorganizing her schedule, thinking the problem was too many tasks. But the fatigue continued even on lighter days. Nothing touched the root, the feeling that she needed to command everything all the time, or else everything would collapse. It was after a severe migraine crisis, which took her to the emergency room for the third time in 6 months, that something changed. The doctor who saw her, instead of only prescribing painkillers, asked about chronic tension and mentioned that recurrent migraines can be linked to locked autonomic states. He gave Emma the contact of a physical therapist specialized in somatic release. 2 weeks later, during the first session, the therapist explained that Emma's body was operating in permanent defense and introduced a short polyvagal sequence that disarmed that pattern without needing force or discipline. Emma followed the instructions for the first time that very night, sitting on the edge of the bed. She adjusted her jaw and tongue in a specific way. In the first seconds, nothing. Then something yielded. It was not relaxation, it was the absence of command. For the first time in years, her face stopped policing the world. Saliva returned, her gaze softened. Then came the second stage, breath directed to the solar plexus, not to force calm, but to allow the abdomen to respond. On the third exhale, Emma felt something unknown, her torso yielding without collapsing, as if her body remembered it could sustain presence without armor. She paused for a moment, breathing slowly, noticing that for the first time in a long time, she wasn't steering her own state. Her body was doing something on its own, and what came next changed everything. The sequence begins exactly where the body maintains constant vigilance, in the jaw and the tongue. When these 2 points lock, the nervous system interprets that there is something to defend. By releasing consciously, you signal internal safety. It is not forced relaxation. It is direct communication with the organism telling it can stop policing. Place your tongue gently on the roof of the mouth, right behind the upper teeth, without pressing. Now draw the jaw slightly back, as if you were creating a millimeter of space between the back teeth. Do not force an opening. Just allow the jaw to move away internally without visible movement. Hold this for 10 seconds, breathing normally through the nose. What you should notice: warmth rising in the face, saliva returning to the mouth, a less fixed gaze. There may be a micro-warming at the temples, or a sense that the forehead is softening. These are signs that the body is leaving command mode. If the jaw resists, make minimal lateral movements, shift slightly to the right, then to the left, just enough to unlock. The decisive marker here is when you realize you no longer need to hold your facial expression. The face stops policing the world. This does not happen through force. It happens because the nervous system received new information and begins to trust. Repeat the jaw and tongue adjustment for another 10 seconds, noticing whether the internal space increases. Now comes the second stage. Disarm visceral command. The solar plexus operates as an autonomic control center. When it hardens, The body manages instead of creating. The breathing you will do does not seek calm. It seeks yielding without collapsing, allowing the abdomen to respond, not to obey. Inhale through the nose, counting for beats gently. Hold for 2 beats. Now exhale through the mouth with lips slightly parted, counting 6 beats, and direct all of your attention to the solar plexus, right below the sternum. Feel the front abdomen yielding, as if the torso were disarming an internal shield. Repeat this cycle 3 times. What should happen? Warmth descending through the torso, a sense that the abdomen is deflating without losing structure, the exhale gaining weight. The sign it is working is when you realize you are not making the breath go down. It is going down on its own. The body resumes authority. Before completing the sequence, there is something essential you need to know about Emma. When Emma repeated the sequence the 2nd time, something changed in an undeniable way. For the first time in years, she realized she could trust her body to sustain presence without the mind needing to police every movement. Her jaw released for real. Her breath touched the abdomen without resistance. She was not relaxed. She was available. In the first 48 hours, Emma noticed she could begin tasks without negotiating internally. Conversations flowed without prior mental rehearsal. Her body responded with steady impulse instead of anxiety spikes, followed by exhaustion. In 2 weeks, the chronic migraine decreased drastically. In 1 month, she created more in the salon, new cuts, new approaches with clients, new personal projects, than in the previous 6 months, without additional effort. What Emma felt when her jaw yielded is exactly what you are beginning to notice now. The body returning to being authority, the mind stopping its interference, creation emerging as flow, not as extracted conquest. And there is a 3rd stage that seals this transformation. The last stage anchors the new state at the base of the body. A loose jaw and softened plexus create availability, but it is the pelvis that sustains continuous presence. Without root, the nervous system returns to seeking safety through tension. With root, it trusts it can sustain verticality without armor. Sit with your sitting bones well supported, feet on the floor. Place one hand over the sternum at heart level. Place the other hand over the lower belly, just below the navel. Inhale, feeling expansion in the torso, as if the entire body were breathing. Exhale, feeling weight descending to the pelvis, as if the base were getting heavier, more settled. Repeat this cycle 4 times. What you should notice: a sense of root, that the body has its own base, that it can sustain verticality without tension. The breath begins to function as an inner axis, connecting jaw, plexus, and pelvis in a single structure of self-regulation. When the 3 points are available, the ventral nervous system takes over. You leave trying to control and enter trusting and acting. The complete 90-second sequence has been executed. The body is now in a different state than at the beginning of this video. You do not need to believe it. You can measure it by the signs: breath that descends, a jaw that does not lock when thinking, a solar plexus that remains soft even in the face of decision. The next step is to seal this change and create a return protocol. The proof that the state has changed is in the body now. breath that descends to the abdomen without resistance, a jaw that does not lock when thinking, a solar plexus that remains soft even in the face of decision. These signs do not lie. They confirm that the organism left the command regime and returned to operating through the inner axis. To anchor this state, you will create a simple signal gesture. Place 2 fingers on the sternum at heart level with gentle pressure. Take 1 deep breath, feeling the weight descend to the pelvis. This touch reinvokes the ventral state in 30 seconds. You can do this before any creative act, recording, writing, talking, deciding, starting something important. When you feel the jaw locking, the plexus hardening, or the breath rising back into the chest, stop for 90 seconds. Repeat the complete sequence: jaw, plexus, pelvis. And remember internally, my body knows how to sustain. I don't need to steer what is already alive. This sentence is not an empty affirmation. It is a direct instruction to the nervous system, reminding it that trust generates creation. The seal is complete. You now carry your own tool for returning to the axis. What changed was not motivation, it was state. And state sustains everything effort tries to imitate. What you are sustaining in the body now is different from what you were sustaining at the beginning of this video. The breath descends without needing to be forced. The jaw releases without vigilance. The solar plexus remains soft even in the face of choices that used to harden everything. These changes are not abstract. They are signs that the organism has returned to trusting itself, and with that trust, creation emerges as natural flow, not as conquest wrenched by force. This experience is part of a much larger path. There are other layers of somatic release, other polyvagal practices, other rituals that deepen the return to the body as an inhabited temple. Each one of these layers reveals something that was blocked, something that was being steered by the mind when it could have been sustained by the inner axis. What you lived here is an entryway, not the complete route. Stephen Porges, creator of polyvagal theory, wrote, "Safety is not the absence of threat. It is the presence of cues that tell the body it can trust." That sentence sums up everything you just did. You did not eliminate tension. You returned to the nervous system the cues it needed to stop operating in defense and return to operating in presence. When you trust the body, you trust the intelligence that created it. The creative mode is not personal effort. It is you allowing the source to operate through an available organism, not a defensive system. Creation happens when you step out of the way and let the temple manifest what is already alive within it. If this content touched something real in you, help sustain this work and bring this practice to other people who are operating through tension without knowing there is another way. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Write in the comments, "I free myself from excessive control and activate my creative mode." By putting it into words, you register the change more deeply, anchoring the experience in consciousness and in the organism. If you want to continue this journey, other content is already available for you to deepen this path. Click the video that is appearing on the screen now and watch another transformative video from the channel. The body was never a problem to be solved. It was always a temple to be inhabited. And when you stop commanding and start trusting, the life you try to push by force finally flows through the axis that was always available, waiting only for you to stop interfering so you can begin to truly create.